Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase pricing and availability questions concerning this watch. And today I review one of my favorite things. It's not specifically the brand or the model, just the idea of a watch I would actually buy myself. So I suppose brand and model do matter, but I look through the lens of a buyer, not just an interpreter, when I experience something like this Zenith Chronomaster Open Power Reserve. Now, the model you see right here was launched in 2012. Zenith was in the midst of a historical high watermark under Jean-Frédéric Dufour, who would later go on to become the Director General at Rolex. Zenith had one heck of a resurrection from the controversial years of Terry Nata from about 2010 to 2014, with a little bit of leftover momentum and magic in 2015 after Dufour left. Zenith was really on a roll during this period, and this model is emblematic of why. It keeps one of the best items from the Nataf era, the open dial, open escapement, and combines it with a more classical exterior and dial aesthetic with the historic El Primero chronograph caliber. What is not to like? So 42 millimeters in diameter. The watch in profile is 14.6 millimeters thick from lug tip to lug tip. It is 50.5 millimeters, and then it has a 21 millimeter spacing between the lugs. You can see that the end links to the bracelet actually stay inboard of the edge of the lugs. So the total distance is the lug to lug across the wrist, 50.5 millimeters. Throw it on my wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference. It wears nicely. It is big. I'm not going to lie about that. I think a wrist my size or larger is appropriate, so let's say 16 centimeters circumference and up. And the angle that really confirms that is here, where you can see that the lugs are not over the edge of my wrist, down the barrel here, but nevertheless, they are right up to the edge. So I could not go smaller. You could easily wear this watch on a larger wrist. Now, it's not as thick as it looks. A big part of the thickness is actually that dramatically boxed and cambered sapphire, and a sleeve should ramp up over that just fine. A lovely watch and a handsome one with a black dial, full of all sorts of dial furniture and rhodium-plated steel for shine and glimmer and gleam and glint, and then a bracelet that indicates things got worse at Zenith before they got better. And by that, I mean, in the last couple of years, Zenith's had to address the quality of its bracelets and its clasps. It even made a point of announcing its redesigned clasp at Watches and Wonders 2026. Well, I can tell you that this model launched in 2012 had an incredible bracelet. First of all, the amount of lateral play is among the lowest I've ever experienced on a bracelet. It's up there with the likes of the Chopard Alpine Eagle as one of the best in that regard. Part of the reason is because you've got this interlock and countersink of link into link. Do you see how that works? So you have these gaps between the center links to avoid pinching skin, pulling hair, or trapping wrist heat, but then you have this incredible tight socketing of link into link. And if you look, we've got some half links or half size links here in case you find yourself in between sizes. And then taking another look, every single link in this bracelet is removable, which is a rather remarkable thing. It gives you a lot of sizing flexibility. And down here, you can see that the clasp is actually quite a bit better than the rather thin stamped thing that Zenith has been shipping for a couple of years. And again, they redesigned their clasp for 2026, but this clasp was not objectionable. This was actually a little bit better than what came afterwards. You can see it's a double fold, non-sequential Zenith Star logo externally, twin trigger release. You have to press both for them to pop open. They cannot inadvertently release. Taking a look at the case band here, you can see it's a great looking watch, and it has that soon-to-be classic Chronomaster shape with a sort of rounded case that blends into the lugs, a little bit of an angularity like a Carrera, but with a bevel across the top, a downturned squared-off face, and some satin polish on the top. We have the Zenith star on the crown, and then we have a little kerf underneath the crown. You see that right there? So you can dig your nail in more easily. We have these collared pump-style pushers, and although it is a push-down crown, take note of the case back. This watch right here is 100 meters water resistant. It says so right there. Okay. Now, the timepiece features a dial that's a combination of black and silver and blue. And actually, we could see the iridescent colors of the full silicon escapement, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So what do we have here? Fundamentally, we've got a tachymetric scale outboard, which can be used with the chronograph seconds hand to gauge the speed of an object, such as a race car over a kilometer. Now you can see that there's sort of an aged silvered track, almost with a sort of light champagne color. It's not quite the brightly polished silver of the hands or the bezel escapement surround or the indices themselves. It's actually sort of shaded almost champagne. Then we've got a black dial center. You can see we have all these applique indices. They're steel and rhodium plated with a black lacquer infill to give a little bit of contrast. We'll do a lume shot so you can see how much this dial is luminescent. As you can see, it's a reasonable amount, though we lose the upper quarter between 9 o'clock and 12 o'clock. Taking a quick look below that, you can see a power reserve, 50 hours, though in truth it'll run about 52. We have a open dial. Now this is something tearing it off. I guess you would call it almost like the universal leader of Zenith during the 2000s. He was almost more of a dictator than a chief executive. He was the lead stylist. He was the president, he was the CEO, and coming from an engineering background, he also had an obsession with complications. So there was not a single cookie jar in which he did not have a hand during that period. And this was probably his magnum opus because everyone agreed that the open dial was cool. Even if the rest of his designs didn't go the distance, this is still alive and well at Zenith in 2026. But back in 2012, when this came out, you can see we've got this lovely polished bezel surrounding the fourth wheel, which has an extended pinion acting as a tri-spoke seconds. You can see there's a little bit of seconds calibration here. After the fourth wheel, we've got the escape wheel, the spokes of which actually form the Zenith Star logo. And then we've got the anchor, and then we've got the balance with flat hairspring beating away at 36,000 vibrations per hour or 10 beats per second, which is why this chronograph seconds hand sweeps smoother than 8 beats, 6 beats, or 5 beats per second. 36,000 vibrations per hour, characteristic of the El Primero, which back in 1969 became one of the first automatic chronographs of any description, and unarguably the first fully integrated automatic high-beat chronograph. You can see the movement from the backside, and also note there is a sticker over the case back, so if this looks a little bit hazy, that's the reason why. Certified COSC Swiss chronometer, 39 joules, 5 hertz beat rate, super crisp column wheel action to this chronograph. And I mean best of the best feel. You can buy a more expensive chronograph, but not a better feeling column wheel. And then it's a lateral clutch. And you can actually see both through the case back. Turn all this over. There's the column wheel right there. And then here's the lateral clutch. Now, the escapement here in silicon reduces friction, it reduces the need for lubrication, it extends the intervals in between services, and it reduces the amount of mass in the drivetrain. And so this is a very sophisticated setup that improves performance on almost every level, and it looks cool. It's a no-lose. The watch has bidirectional automatic winding, and you can see a combination of blued and polished screws on the case back, and they do different things, and they're primarily a cue to the watchmaker, with the polished screws generally used to fix things in place that are not supposed to move, or at least are not supposed to move relative to each other. And then the blued screws generally used for adjustment of mechanisms, so they do serve two different purposes. And then you can see we've got this eccentric screw micrometric regulator for the time, and KIF shock protection, which is sort of a boutique-y, lower volume alternative to the more common Inca block. Lots to love here. A multi-complication, a chronometer, 100 meters, steel. It's a sports watch, it's a dress watch, it's an all-arounder, and it was an all-time high water mark for Zenith. So if you love this watch, reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.